What if the only thing standing between you and a brutal death was the sound of jazz music? Welcome to Sherlock Mode. New Orleans, 1918. A city of vibrant culture, simmering racial tensions, and Italian immigrants seeking a better life. The air hung heavy with humidity as darkness fell across the Crescent City on May 22, 1918. Joseph and Catherine Maggio slept peacefully in their modest home above their grocery store in the Italian Quarter. They never heard the soft scraping at their back door as a panel was meticulously chiseled away. They never saw the dark figure that slipped inside, retrieving an axe from their own property. The first blow fell with terrible force, then another, and another. By morning, blood had soaked through the floorboards, dripping into the grocery store below. Joseph's brother Andrew discovered the horrific scene, Joseph with his skull fractured, his throat slashed with a razor. Catherine had asphyxiated on her own blood as she bled out beside her husband. The killer had left the bloody axe and razor behind. Nothing was stolen. This wasn't about robbery. A few miles away, a chilling message was discovered scrawled in chalk. Mrs. Maggio is going to sit up tonight, just like Mrs. Tony. Mrs. Tony Sciambra had been a victim of similar attacks between 1911 and 1912. New Orleans Police Superintendent Frank Mooney suspected a murderous degenerate who gloats over blood. But this was just the beginning of a reign of terror that would grip the city in fear. On June 27, 1918, Louis Bessumer and his mistress Harriet Lowe were attacked in their grocery store. Both survived initially, though Harriet would die from her injuries weeks later after bizarrely accusing Bessumer of being a German spy. On August 5th, a pregnant woman named Mrs. Edward Schneider awoke to find a man standing over her with an axe. Her scream startled him. The axe fell, plunging into her skull, but miraculously, both she and her unborn child survived. Just 5 days later, elderly Joseph Romano was attacked with an axe and found by his 2 nieces. He died 2 days later. The pattern was becoming clear. Italian grocers were being targeted. The killer used their own axes against them. The killer always chiseled through a back door panel, never stole anything, and left the murder weapons behind. Then, as mysteriously as he had appeared, the Axeman vanished for several months. The city breathed a collective sigh of relief. Perhaps the nightmare was over. But on March 10, 1919, the Axeman returned with his most horrific attack yet. In the suburb of Gretna, Charles Cortimiglia, another Italian grocer, was attacked in his home. His wife Rosie awoke to find her husband fighting desperately with a large man wielding an axe. Charles fell to the floor with multiple blows to his head, his skull fractured. Rosie clutched their 2-year-old daughter Mary in her arms, begging the intruder for mercy. The axe came down anyway, killing the child instantly and fracturing Rosie's skull. The brutality of attacking a child shocked even the most hardened New Orleans residents. Fear gripped the city. Italian families kept vigil through the night, armed with shotguns and pistols. Then on March 16, 1919, the Times-Picayune newspaper published a letter that would forever change the Axeman legend. Esteemed mortal, they have never caught me, and they never will. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a fell demon from hottest hell. I am what you Orleanians call the Axeman. The letter continued with a chilling ultimatum that would echo through New Orleans history. At 12:15 on next Tuesday night, I am going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I make this proposition. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is playing. If everyone has a jazz band going, well, then, so much the better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night will get the axe. The letter was signed simply, The Axeman. On Tuesday, March 19, 1919, New Orleans transformed into a city of music and desperate revelry. Every dance hall was filled to capacity. Professional and amateur jazz bands played at hundreds of house parties. Those without musicians played phonographs at full volume, jazz spilling into the streets from every window. The city pulsed with frantic rhythm as midnight approached, a bizarre symphony of survival. Local composer Joseph John Davila even wrote a song, the mysterious Axeman's jazz, "Don't Scare Me, Papa." As promised, no one was killed that night. The Axeman kept his word. But the respite was temporary. The Axeman wasn't finished with New Orleans. On August 10, 1919, Steve Bocca, another Italian grocer, was struck in the head with an axe while sleeping. Somehow, he managed to reach a friend's house to call police. He survived, but couldn't identify his attacker. On September 2nd, druggist William Carson awoke to find an intruder in his bedroom. Unlike other victims, Carson had a gun. He fired several shots, and the intruder fled, leaving behind an axe. The very next day, Sarah Lawman, a young girl, was attacked with an axe while sleeping. She survived with memory loss. Then on October 27, 1919, the Axeman claimed his final known victim, Mike Pepitone, another Italian grocer. His wife heard the commotion and rushed into the bedroom to find her husband dead and the killer fleeing. And then, as mysteriously as he had appeared, the Axeman vanished from New Orleans forever. The case was never officially solved. The Axeman's true identity remains unknown to this day. But there is one strange postscript to this bloody tale that suggests a possible solution. In December 1920, more than a year after the final Axeman murder, a man named Joseph Mumford was shot to death in Los Angeles. His killer was Esther Albano, the widow of the Axeman's last victim, Mike Pepitone. Police discovered that Mumford had once led a blackmail ring targeting Italian immigrants in New Orleans. More intriguingly, Mumford had been in prison until just before the 1918 Axeman murders began. He was imprisoned again during the lull in killings, and released just before they resumed. And most tellingly, Mumford left New Orleans for the West Coast immediately after the Pepitone murder. Was Joseph Mumford the Axeman? Did Esther Pepitone track down her husband's killer for revenge? Or was it all a coincidence? The evidence remains circumstantial, the case officially unsolved. Over a century later, the Axeman of New Orleans remains one of America's most mysterious serial killers. His jazz ultimatum created one of the most bizarre nights in American crime history. And somewhere in the shadows of the Crescent City, the truth about the Axeman still waits to be discovered. If you enjoyed unraveling this mystery, like and subscribe to Sherlock Mode.